Yesterday, Sunday, 1st of October 2023, Nigeria marked 63 years of nationhood, which is usually referred to as Independence Day. Hence, today, Monday, is officially a national holiday to commemorate Nigeria's independence from British rule on 1st of October 1960.
How time flies, Jumai. Now, activities to mark the 63rd Independence Anniversary celebration commenced last week Monday with a World Press Conference, and thereafter a series of activities, including the Anniversary Symposium and public lecture, Jumat prayers, and yesterday, Sunday, it climaxed with a presidential broadcast, military parade, and interdenominational church service.
That's true, Kingsley. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, said President Bola Tinubu has given his approval for the 63rd anniversary to be low-key, in line with the present economic realities and with the theme of the anniversary, Nigeria at 63, renewed hope for unity and prosperity.
Indeed, Jumai. Now, you'll agree that the theme is very apt at this time, for Nigeria has witnessed 24 years of unbroken democratic rule since 1999, as well as the successful and seamless transfer of power at the national level. Therefore, it calls for reflection and celebration, as the case may be.
And Kingsley, one may say, in spite of the political tremors and the wave of coups in some parts of the ECOWAS sub-region, Nigerians have fully embraced democracy with its core values and practices as the best form of governance. Now, this is because democracy affords citizens the opportunity through elective structures and processes to effectively participate in the affairs of their country.
No question about that. You will agree that the relationship between the people and government in representative democracy is symbiotic. Now, while the citizens support the government also is expected to provide the public goods, including security and enhanced living conditions. And
President Tinubu had said several times that he is fully aware of the economic challenges that Nigerians are confronted with since the removal of food subsidy, as well as the impact of the global economic downturn. The government, he stated in his Independence Anniversary speech, is working assiduously to provide the necessary palliatives so as to mitigate such challenges.
Now, at the same time, the government is engaging with the labor federated unions in order to address areas of concern for the well-being of all Nigerian workers and Nigerians in general. Of course, the president in his first Independence Day broadcast on Sunday announced a wage increment of an additional 25,000 naira per month for the next 6 months to the average low-grade workers in the federal civil service. And the purpose, of course, is to alleviate the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy.
The president also mentioned the deployment of cheaper, safer, compressed natural gas CNG buses across the nation, which citizens are hoping will crash the price of transportation significantly. How many of such buses will be deployed by state and here in the FCT will be another thing to consider while we wait for clarification.
Well, the renewed hope agenda of the current administration is anchored on improved food security, the guarantee to end poverty, improved security, economic growth and job creation, access to capital and level playing field for all, respect for the rule of law, as well as the fight against corruption.
And the administration has a lot of work on its plate, and it is for the reason that the president approved the 63rd anniversary to be low-key, in line with the present economic reality. The theme of the anniversary, as we noted earlier, is Nigeria at 63, renewed hope for unity and prosperity.
Well, as Nigeria marks our 63rd independence anniversary, the big question is, how can the citizens renew their hope for unity and prosperity in line with the theme for this year's celebration?
Well, Kingsley, this is one of the several issues our panel of guests will speak to us as we discuss Nigeria at 63. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. We're live in Abuja. This is the first edition for the week. I am Jummai Yusuf.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague Jumai to also welcome you and to say happy Independence Anniversary to all our viewers around the country and elsewhere around the world, and of course to the friends of the country who have also wished us well on this occasion. In the course of today's program, we shall also have our regular complimentary segments. These include newspaper review and of course business. And it's a wet morning here in the nation's capital, pretty cold temperatures, but it's lovely regardless. Let's join our colleague now, Comfort Amodu, who has the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Comfort.
Good morning, Kingsley and Jumai. Good morning, Nigerians. And here's the morning news. Of course, actualizing a better Nigeria will require courage, compassion and commitment as one indivisible unit and not by fear or hatred. In his address to commemorate Nigeria's 63rd independence anniversary, President Bola Tinubu identified these as the recipes for greatness as Nigeria navigates her journey ahead.
Some people have said an independent Nigeria should never have come into existence. Some have said that our country will be torn apart. They are forever mistaken. Here, our nation stands, and here we shall remain.
The Nigerian military gave a celebration to remember with parades and cultural displays to commemorate the Nigerian's independence anniversary. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Vice President Cashew, leaders of other arms of government, as well as friends of Nigeria from the diplomatic community, witnessed the controlled event which held in the State House.
Presidential salute there. Put your hands together, please. Put your hands together. We are not looking at the front there. Thank you.
We saw Igbos, we saw Hausas, we saw Yorubas amongst the military parade, all coming together as one. And it's that spirit that I would want to encourage Nigerians to imbibe and continue to imbibe.
It's been an interesting one, but the renewed hope agenda is reassuring Nigerians that more than ever before, Nigeria will rediscover itself. There will be peace and prosperity for our dear nation.
The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has also congratulated Nigerians on the occasion of the nation's 63rd independence anniversary. In a statement issued by Special Advisor, Media and Publicity, Eseme Yibo, the Senate President, while acknowledging present challenges in the polity, said that there are many landmarks in the nation's 63 years to give a sense of optimism for a better tomorrow. He affirmed that the fabrics of national cohesion increasingly being braced by the unique Nigerian struggles, adding that he was confident to assert that Nigeria was now on the correct path to rediscovery. Meanwhile, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, has also congratulated Nigerians on the occasion, stating emphatically that the country would be great again. In an independence anniversary message through his special advisor on media and publicity, Musa Krishi, Speaker Abbas urged Nigerians to keep hope in the country alive, as doomsayers and pessimists would soon be disappointed. Despite the myriad of challenges facing the country, Speaker Abbas notes that Nigeria still has the prospect and potential to reclaim its leadership position in the Committee of Nations, especially with its abundant human and natural resources. Downton asked the challenges currently facing Nigeria are solutions to them does not require magic, but rather a series of well-thought-out reforms that can emplace a new foundation for sustained national development. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu stated this while highlighting the need for Nigerians to embrace hope anew at 63 Independence Day, the interdenominational Thanksgiving service in Abuja.
A Nigeria of abundance has begun. If we do not have hope, how do we become part of this greatness that God has started in our nation? We are not here to put blame on any administration, but to fix what is damaged. My husband is not a magician. He's going to work brick by brick, and I believe and I hope that you will have faith in this administration. The best is yet to come for us.
There's hope that the organized labor union may shelve the impending strike as they have inched closer to a truce with the federal government. The meeting, convened at the instance of the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, was also attended by other representatives of the federal government, which include Ministers of Labour and their counterparts from Finance, Industry, Trade and Investment, Information and National Orientation, as well as Budget and Economic Planning leaders from the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. Represented the labor unions after hours of intense meeting with several consultations at the State House, and the parties emerged with their resolutions.
Issues were addressed, issues that concern the Nigerian worker, the average Nigerian worker, pertinent issues. I can't begin to reel them out here, but I am happy to say that after 4 hours, we have reached certain agreements that inure to the benefit of the Nigerian worker. Agreements on wage bill, agreements on committees, on salary increment, agreement on the CN bosses, agreement on several other things, I believe, both TUC, Labour and government side. We will, hopefully, we expect that Labour will call a meeting of their various branches and executive tomorrow to present the agreements that have been reached, and we pray and we believe and we hope that the strike will be called off on Tuesday.
We have looked at almost all the issues, all the promissory notes, from the government, and we looked at how to translate them to reality, and to be workable. And then we're going to take those promises to our organs. Of course, these people here cannot just wake up and review and call off action. So, like he said, we're hopeful that our organs will have a look at them and give us a fresh mandate on what next to do.
Now to other issues on the news, with the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, asserting that the federal government has not signed any plea bargain deal with the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, maintains that the alleged non-prosecution plea bargain arrangement between the federal government and Emefiele is false. Justice Minister says while it is true that the legal team representing Godwin Emefiele has expressed their intention in court at the last hearing to initiate a plea bargain arrangement, parties in the matter have not reached any agreement. Fagbemi assures that the office will continue to take all actions in the interests of Nigerians. That's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues in a moment with Jumai and Kinsley after this break.
Our commitment is to promote the greatest good for the greatest number of our people. On principle, we shall never falter. We will get out of this turbulence. And due to the measures we have taken, Nigeria will be better equipped and able to take advantage of the future that awaits her.
Look at these high-quality Quaker oats. Delicious in taste, good source of fiber and energy. There is no denying Quaker Oats is an amazing start to your day. Quaker Oats, goodness that lasts.
My son has always dreamt of being in the spotlight. That's why I give him Born Vita for everyday vitality that gives him the strength to pursue his dreams. Born Vita, strength to dream.
We are Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC. We are political parties. We are the pathway to political power. IPAC, in line with its core mandate, is carrying out peer review mechanism for elected political office holders. Performance of the President of Nigeria, state governors, state and National Assembly members will be assessed comparatively. This will trigger healthy competition amongst our elected politicians to deliver dividends of democracy like good roads, good health care delivery system, good schools, full employment, security, and so on. This prestigious program will soon be shown live on television stations across Nigeria. IPAC, deepening and consolidating democracy.
You and your hair go through a lot. The heat, rain, chaos. It's a non-stop war against total breakdown. But just like you, your hair can stay strong no matter what. Mega Growth Break Free Daily Leave-In Strengthener for all hair types is infused with a unique blend of natural oils and conditioning proteins that helps protect your hair. Mega Growth Break Free, your daily defense against breakage.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
You're welcome back, and on business news, there are increased call for the development of the cashew value chains towards topping global export chart and local demand. Let's join Comfort Amadou for details.
Nigeria is considered one of the leading producers of raw cashew nuts in the world, with an annual production capacity of nearly 800,000 metric tons. However, lack of processing machinery is a challenge for more than 2,000 cashew farmers. Although cashew tops the charts of non-oil exportable products in international markets, value addition is lacking in Nigeria.
After a while, we are hoping to see that Nigeria is no longer exporting raw cashew nuts out of the country, but exporting cashew kernel,
where we can begin to have recognition for cashew that is produced here with appropriate traceability systems in place, meeting requirements for production and also meeting the destination markets requirements.
NEPC is achieving the buyer's requirements. In addition to that, our exporter will be selling at a premium, because if the normal cashew kernel sell at $2 a kilo, organic sell at $15 a kilo. So you can imagine that.
We are supporting through capacity building, we are supporting through grants, we are supporting through resource mobilization, just to make sure that we bring Nigeria on the same level as other countries.
Looking at the country's trade balance of 1.29 trillion naira for the third straight quarter, in quarter two, a 38.7% increase, there are calls for sustained efforts and policies to maintain the rise in the nation's exports.
This is definitely the way to go: produce and export. So if the government can sustain it, it could mean the turnaround of our dwindling fortunes in favor of the economy.
Nigeria is looking to lead the development of cashew value chains, with the nut gaining global recognition.
Thank you, Comfort, for the business news package. Coming up next now is a review of the papers we have this morning.
newspaper reviewer Chikudi is in the studio. Good morning, Chikudi.
Good morning, Jumai. How are you doing?
Fine. It's a wet morning.
Wet. But don't be surprised, in about 3 weeks, it's going to be dry morning.
Yeah, dry.
Good morning, Kings.
Yeah,
good morning,
Chikudi. Good to see you. All right, let's begin our review this morning by taking a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper. Punch newspaper, above the name flag. Yeah, 3 headlines there. We'll take them. Chicago academic record. Tinubu lawyers kick as court orders release. Federal government issues first wholesale gas supply license under PIA, that's the Petroleum Industry Act. The evaluation. Government and banks make 2.2 trillion naira, manufacturers lose 495 billion naira. And the list story has a double-decker headline and 2 riders. Federal government okays allowance for senior staff, labor may suspend strike. Wage award now for all cadres of workers, says Bajabi Amila. VAT on diesel waived for 6 months. FG increases allowance to 35,000 naira as labor rejects 25,000. OPS, that's organized private sector, again warns against strike. The photograph there on the front page shows the cutting of the cake to commemorate the nation's 63rd independence anniversary. And all the heads of the 3 arms of government are represented in that photograph. President is there, Vice President is there, Senate President is there, Speaker of the House of Reps is also there, and the Chief Justice of Nigeria is also there, along, of course, with the FCT Minister. Independence Day, APC berates PDP as opposition faults Tinubu's speech. Katsina Varsity suspends 6 students arrested for colleague's death. No plea bargain agreement with Emefiele, says AGF.
Okay, let's quickly go to the Nation newspaper, and above the masthead, stay clear of revoked property. FCTA warns landowners. You find the details on page 4. Boa slashes cement ex-factory price to 3,500 naira per bag. And details on page 6. Tanker fire kills 5 on Warri Benin Road. Details on page 27. And the headlines in the Nation newspaper. Tinubu okays more relief packages for workers' orders. With riders, federal government labor reach agreement. NLC summons emergency NEC meeting. And the picture story you see there, Kingsley has already, read it. Our president, the vice president, Senate president, Speaker of the House of Representatives, and some other people there cutting the 63rd anniversary cake yesterday. How 63rd independence anniversary was marked? Give federal government time, say SGF, First Lady. Picture story you see there, First Lady Oluremi Tinubu left, and Chairman of Gerogu PLC, Mr. Femi Otedola, during his visit to Senator Tinubu at the presidential villa over the weekend. And 70-year-old man nabbed over London-bound drug shipment. Details on page 27. Chukudi.
Thank you, Jumai. Bua is announcing 3,500, for cement. That's a good one. Just as we say that DPK kerosene may need to be looked at. True. If we are really serious about having a reasonable number of trees on our landscapes, So we think that the main ingredient for building, cement, should be looked at. It wouldn't be a great, sacrifice, really. It's a necessity. Because some of us who have not put up buildings we want to put up are beginning to think that maybe somebody is thinking that returning to the prehistoric times, the early man's way of life, living in huts.
I love huts. It's cool.
You love huts?
Yeah, I do.
Well,
I love when I go to the village. I love huts.
When you go to the village?
Yes.
When it becomes, when there are prospects of it becoming your permanent residence, what happens?
There's a way they
build it now. If you
can
can't buy cement.
There's a way they build it now, modern.
No, actually, I appreciate that aspect of it. The point I'm making is, the cost of building,
yes,
basic ingredients for building, we need to look at it.
But to reduce the deficit, the housing deficit in Nigeria.
We are serious about reducing the housing deficit.
It isn't just about reducing the housing deficit in Nigeria. Yes. I think that, Chukwudi, this topic is a very serious one. Very serious.
Very serious.
Very serious. I mean, Jumari says, oh, HOTS, XYZ. Are you going to build the federal secretariat?
You can't.
Engineer Dave Umahi, the Honorable Minister of Works, says that we will not have rigid pavement for our roads.
Yes.
If you're going to have rigid pavement, what you need, the key ingredient there is cement. Are the cement manufacturers going to sell to you at a different price than what they sell in the open market?
No.
That's one. But I think that much more seriously, you see the way consumers are taken advantage of in this economy. We had a conversation probably about a year or two ago on Good Morning Nigeria relating to arbitrary fixing of prices for goods and services. You go to the market, you want to buy, this is a basket of fruits we have on our table in front of us here. They will tell you four balls of this one is 1,000 naira.
Yes.
You go around that entire market, the price is the same.
You don't know how that happens. Where is the agreement?
That is where the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission is not keeping its eyes on the ball. Why is it that apparently over the years, consumers of cement have been taken for a ride? Prices were just galloping from 2000, 2004, 2005 to 2006. From that place, it went to 3,000, went to 4,000, 5,000, and so on and so forth. And now BOA says, look, we are crashing this price to 3,005. And it gave its reasons for saying we are the reason for reducing the price. And this is the way it happens in the construction industry.
Yes.
Whenever the price of cement goes up, every other item relating to it, iron rod, the price will go up, granite, the price will go up, sharp sand, the price will go up, filling sand, the price will go up, and so on and so forth. So we just have people who are taking advantage of consumers in this economy. If you recall, probably Ramadan or two ago, the same BOA issued a statement that it was not going to increase the price of sugar.
And it was a war.
Yeah, because there was an alleged plan by some other competitors to either hold and then inflate the price of sugar because there will be higher demand for sugar during Ramadan. BOA said no, came out with an advertised statement and said, we will not do this. So there is a commission responsible for this.
Yes.
Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. All these things, this one is in the formal sector that you know the players, XYZ, you appear to do nothing, people are bigger than the country, and consumers are taken for a ride, and so on and so forth. When citizens are complaining about hardship in the land, these are part of the sources.
Yes.
Because the ease of living, assuming you want to fix a problem in your place, you say, okay, I need 2 bags of cement. They will tell you, oh God, the last price is 5,500. That is 11,000. You want to go and buy iron rod, 10 mm or 12 mm, or depending on what you want to do, they say, oh God, the price has gone up. Go for granite, the price has gone up. The money leaves your pocket.
Actually, they tell you stop work.
Precisely. and then you go to the market, they fix their prices anyhow. And so this is what BOA has done versus, in addition to what he did before by announcing that he wasn't going to raise the price of sugar during Ramadan, tells us that there is something fishy.
There is something fishy because you tend to see monopolistic tendencies in an area that should be open to free competition, where, manufacturing cement is definitely profitable. So many people want to get into it. So let's make it the more the merrier.
Next, I think, should be flour, because the price of bread now is just skyrocketing by the day.
How much was a loaf of bread some years ago? Yes. You go to get a good loaf of bread now, nothing less than 1,000 naira.
Yes.
To get it, and then you need it for other things.
We bought it for Toro. Juma, I don't think it met that era.
All those were bread rolls.
You might be surprised.
Those were bread rolls.
Yeah.
Bread rolls. You bought it at Orikese, had a lovely bakery.
And fresh. Fresh and hot.
No, you don't know.
I love, no,
You
I
don't
mean,
know
I mean bread.
So,
I love bread, fresh and hot.
Neither does you know Odiche bread.
No, I know that bread they used to bring from the east before.
Oh,
it used to be brown.
You man.
Very nice.
I think we can
admit
admit you into the club.
Of course you have to.
By association.
Of course.
By association.
What we are talking about. See, the federal government is negotiating with TUC and the NLC now over wage increase, over how to ameliorate hardship. The key thing is ease of living.
Yes.
How do you deal with everyone just wakes up and you fix your price and say, take it or leave it?
That is the
federal government is negotiating with the vocal few. The generality of the people need access to the things they need to live basic life.
All this wage increase and all that is not what I really want. I want a harmonization of salary across board, including the agencies and the MDAs. You understand? Somebody goes to work from 9 to 5 and closes, collects maybe 700,000. People like us in NTA will come to work from morning at times till night, and then the salary
I love this robust escalation of a vexed issue.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. The other one, Chukwudi,
okay.
I'm sorry, it's also in a sense linked to this. I don't understand the basis, for instance, for the VAT on diesel. I don't understand. Do we produce diesel in this country? In fact, it was said also on Good Morning Nigeria by the former senior special assistant to the president from the previous administration that part of the diesel that the people were claiming to be importing, the diesel came from the so-called fire. That is these illegal refineries that we had. They would take them in barges to the high seas, just do a turnaround and come back. Is any of our refineries, is it producing diesel? If it is not producing diesel, and you still need diesel to fire your plants in the industry, you need diesel to fire your generators for most of the companies that use them. You increase VAT to get revenue, and then you increase the cost of doing business. And then they will pass it on to the consumer. This one is
the
just
consumer takes the final.
Consumer takes it, and then more money goes out of the consumer's pocket. The consumer doesn't feel happy, and then there is protest. There are complaints about lack of citizens' well-being. So, what is the basis for this? I don't understand.
Kingsley, we've talked a lot already, so let me just summarize in my own way the announcement by the president. You know,
you have 2 minutes to do
Yes, 2 minutes. I'll take just one.
Okay.
I like the fact that the dialogue we keep on saying that resolves issues all the time would seem to have happened. Labour refused a meeting on Friday. There was a last-minute meeting, which probably changed what the president had put out, you know, from 25,000 naira to low-income federal workers. Now we're talking about 35,000 naira across board for federal workers.
Yes.
I am interested in how the states are going to join in because the percentage of people who work for the federal government, that's quite minimal.
Yeah.
So we have to hope for something that really has a bandwagon effect. That's the point I'm making. Dialogue would always solve it if men are sincere.
And I still call for harmonization of salaries across board.
I have a feeling that there will be a call-off of the...
let that happen. The other issue, we'll keep it in view, because probably it might take extended conversation. And that has to do with the accident that occurred yesterday on the Benin-Sapele so-called expressway. There's a tanker fire, it was conveying diesel. That expressway is gone. Long gone. It's a nightmare to be on that road. Traveling from Benin to Sapele used to be just about 30 minutes or less. And then from there you move on to Warri. Now they say it takes days. I spoke about this in the past. And it's on and on and on. No remedial work is ongoing. No control of traffic. People are being robbed. And then you have this fire incident following the spill of diesel from a falling tanker on that road. I think that expressway was one of those awarded under the tax credit, infrastructure tax credit scheme. I'm not sure which company got it, but there appears to be no sign that the work is going to be done. It was the Babangida administration that dualized started the dualization of that road, gave it to a company called Dewu. Otherwise, it was just a single lane route, and you had no hassles. I mean, you could drive from Benin to Warri in less than an hour, Benin to Sapele, of course, in 30 minutes, and so on and so forth. Now, it takes days, and you have heavy-duty trucks coming, because some of them are, I don't know what, it's a nightmare.
The EU access, on the Auchi end of it and all that, the roads are pathetic. Let government please up their game in that area. It's very important.
On that note, Chukwudi, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much too for having me.
In depth into issues.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll take a break. When we return, our conversation will begin. Don't go away.
We must all join hands to work hard so that we build a country for our grandchildren.
My hope is that we develop as a nation where every citizen is given his due right. There is transparency, honesty, and integrity.
Put the interests of this country first and foremost. Interests of Nigeria is being one nation, one people.
The need, if I mean, to put things right, things that have gone wrong before, to try and put right, for the love of country.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
You're welcome back as a prompt for our conversation segment, which is on Nigeria 63, renewed hope for unity and prosperity. Let's take this background report by Abdusalam Jibril.
Like many African countries, during the independence boom of the mid-20th century, Nigeria became independent from British colonial rule on 1st October 1960. The length and breadth of independent Nigeria was thronged into celebrations as the Union Jack was lowered and the Nigerian flag hoisted. It has been 63 years since that historic day, and experts have likened Nigeria to the life of a 63-year-old woman with successes, achievements, and challenges. In her 63-year history, Nigeria has practiced different forms of government that includes parliamentary, military, and the current presidential system of government. Since 1999, Nigeria has had uninterrupted democratic rule and has been a model for many African countries. Nigeria has also grown her economy to the largest in Africa and the 30th in the world, according to the World Bank. Upon assuming leadership in May this year, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been enacting some reforms towards addressing the challenges the country faces. In his first address as president to commemorate Nigeria's 63rd independence anniversary, the president recognized that while some of the reforms have been challenging, he rolled out temporary measures to mitigate the impact of the hardships caused by the removal of fuel subsidy.
Based upon our talks with labor, business, and other stakeholders, we are introducing a provisional wage award increment to enhance the federal minimum wage without causing undue inflation.
President Tinubu also maintains that buses that run on compressed natural gas (CNG) will soon be made available for public transportation, reducing transport costs and positively affecting fares. While paying glowing tributes to the Nigerian security forces and the resilience of the Nigerian people, the president pledged to reform the central bank, improve tax administration to promote economic fairness and development, boost employment rates by empowering small and medium-scale businesses and adequately equipping the security forces, among others. Guest on the program will be speaking to Nigeria at 63, renewed hope for unity and prosperity.
All right, right, thank you very much, Abdulsalam Jibril, for that background. With us in the studios now to discuss issues arising from the President's broadcast, as well as the theme for the celebration of the 63rd Independence Anniversary. Let's welcome Dr. Nkem Okeke, is the immediate past Deputy Governor of Anambra State. Your Excellency, we're glad to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Now, we also would like to welcome Malam Salihu Lukman Abubakar as a public affairs commentator. Malam Salihu, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here with you.
And still joining us in the studio today, I'm happy I have a woman to join me, Zara Audu, Deputy All Progressive Congress APC National Woman Leader, North Central.
No, it's actually, it's nice to be here today, but my position is actually the North Central Zonal Woman Leader of the All Progressive
Congress. The North Central Zonal Woman Leader.
Of the All Progressive Congress.
Okay,
yes.
It's a pleasure having you join us.
Thank you very much.
We also have from our Ibadan studio, Professor Olutayo Adeshino. He's Professor of History, University of Ibadan, Oyo State. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us on today's conversation. Let's begin here in the studios. Gentlemen and Princess, we'll listen to the President yesterday. It was his first Independence Day broadcast, but linking that up with the theme of renewed hope for unity and prosperity. The President struck the right chord in his broadcast. Dr. Nkem Okeke.
Yes, I think he did. I think everybody's worried. People are scared, not quite sure what to do. Price of goods just going up. What can the president say? I mean, he's not a magician. He can only do the best he can with what he has on the table right now. I mean, the country is in a situation where we have to be patient. We don't have any other choice. Just have to be patient. Let the president do the needful, put the right people in the right places, and hopefully things will begin to work. Of course, to begin to do things, to me is like when you have a car. You bought a new car, you've driven the car, no maintenance, no service, nothing. You've driven it for so many years, and the car breaks down. And you begin to fix it. You fix one thing, you drive it for a while, something else breaks down. That's what's going on now. We're trying to put the country in the right path. It's going to take a lot of us to just be calm, be patient, and pray that it will continue in the same direction. Of course, it's a situation where people may not understand the process. It's not their problem to understand how the government works. But people who understand and have an idea should be able to educate the rest and tell them, listen, we need to pipe down, we need to be patient. I listened to the speech yesterday, and it was given the salary increment for labor. I'm thinking, what about the people who are not federal civil servants? What are they going to do? That's why I like the idea of the CNG. I mean, trying to see if we can reduce the cost of transport for people so that they can move around and be able to meet their family needs. I think we're in the right direction. All we need to do is have patience and pray for time. Of course, as the federal government is doing their own bit, we expect the sub-nationals to also do their own bit. Will the state governments increase the salary of their own workers? Would they also try to provide transport for the rest of the society, the rest of the citizens? This needs to be done so that everybody seems to be on the same level playing field. I have hope. I have hope that this country is moving in the right direction. Let's just have a little bit of patience, and just see how things pan out.
Okay, thank you so much for your opening comment. Now let's bring in Zara Audu. She's the Zonal Woman Leader, Deputy Zonal Woman Leader. Deputy, okay, Zonal, not Deputy. I'm trying to correct myself here. Let's have your opinion. What strikes you from the presidential speech, and has the president in any way inspired Nigerians with hope and faith from this broadcast? Let's have your take.
Right. The speech yesterday, I think he was on point. he touched on more than just increment of salaries. He also spoke about expanding the social intervention programs, and I believe this is what will cater to those who are not within the say the civil service or who are working for the federal government. So this is where this is supposed to be the bridge that takes care of the poorest of the poor, who are obviously also suffering from the fuel subsidy removal. They've spoken about CNG buses extensively. I feel that we shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket. Besides being, the zonal woman leader of the North Central APC, I also am into electric vehicles. So I know for a fact that how we should definitely diversify. We shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket. Yes, CNG can be explored, but we should also look into using electric and, electric vehicles as an option, because solar is probably, a bit more reliable in the long term. I think overall, the way Nigerians are feeling is, it's not something that started just within this administration. This is a problem that has been on for many, many years and has snowballed into what we're experiencing today. And just like His Excellency said, something we all need to do is be patient. Nothing good comes easy. Like they say, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And I believe the president is taking the right steps. For me, words don't mean anything because people write speeches. But why I'm convinced that this administration will succeed is because we have a proactive president. We see somebody who is up and down about traveling around the globe, trying to get the best, trying to bring investments into Nigeria, trying to identify the best hands to lead different arms of the government. So I'm optimistic. And I believe that, yes, it's not going to be, it's very difficult at the moment. Anybody that says it isn't is just deceiving us. But then I also feel like how before the brightest morning comes the darkest night, like they say. So I feel we're going through a transition. I think we should be patient. I think all Nigerians have to work together to make Nigeria better. For as long as we believe it's the president's duty, it's the federal government's duty, it's the governor's duty, there's only so much they can do. Because the problem affects too many people for them to be able, nobody's a magician. Nobody has the magic wand that, miraculously comes in and fixes it. Whether it's at the local government level or at the state governor's level, talk less about a presidential level where it's, it's a huge project. I feel all Nigerians should, and I think ultimately, more than anything else, let's stop with the negativity. There's too many negative views out there. Everybody's not wishing for, but predicting the worst. Let's start to look at, with everything that's going on, whether we like it or not, some positive things are beginning to, we're managing to get some of the security problems under control. So there are some positive steps that are being taken. This is a proactive government. The president is very, very, obviously extremely concerned about the situation in the country. He's not ignorant of the situation. He's not even delegating to other people. He's hands-on. And I think that in itself is a very, very positive thing. And we should all be hopeful. I am very hopeful. And I believe that this APC-led administration, this renewed hope administration, will be the administration that, it will be the one that makes, a real difference. It's our 7th successful democratic transition. And like they say, lucky number 7. So I'm very optimistic. I also have a lot of faith in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to be honest with you. And I feel that he's the best person at this critical time to fix the problems that we have in Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Princess Zara. Let's go over to our Ibadan Network Center, where we earlier introduced Professor Additional. Professor Additional, if you are there and we can see you on the screen, that's a presumption, therefore, that we can. All right, Professor Additional, let's have your initial comments on the president's broadcast against the backdrop that this was intended to be a low-key celebration, and there is a reason for making it low-key. Did the president in that speech, therefore, strike the right chord with the citizens?
Okay, good morning, Nigerians. it's very important for us at this moment of our history to apprehend certain issues and development and understand them within the context of this phase of our progress to nationhood. I've heard a woman leader say that the president is not a miracle worker, but if you look at what Nigeria is passing through, the stage we are in now, we need a miracle worker. We need a magician. We don't need the regular people. And so, if Nigeria is going to get out of this problem, we need an orientation that talks to us to be patient and at the same time factors the need to move twice at the speed of light to get certain things done in this country. We have continued to see, yes, the president's broadcast was all well and good. He tried to put us at ease, but I think it's not far-reaching enough. Far-reaching enough because, you see, there are a multiplicity of problems that demand stringent and strong attention. So we don't want to move with the policies and plans that had been put in place in the past. What we need now is a grand strategy that takes all these things together and evolves new mechanisms, structures, plans, and programs that takes us at a faster rate, on a better route than we had always been. I used to teach the history of China. When we teach China in the 1970s, we talk about poverty, underdevelopment, sicknesses, and all those kind of things. But see where China is today. China evolved a grand strategy that took that country out of the morass it had found itself. But from the way I see things in Nigeria, we are doing things the regular way. It's like the old saying, the reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable man tries to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all development depends on the unreasonable man. So let us get out of this regular way of doing things. We don't need regular people. We need a miracle worker.
Thank you so much, Professor Adeshino. Let's now return to the studio where Malam Saliu Lukman Abubakar is a public affairs commentator. There's 63 years of independence. Wonder if it's a human being, he'll be a grandfather or she'll be a grandmother by now. It's been a journey, quite a long journey, you know, with a lot of ups and downs. And today we celebrate 63 years of independence. What are the low-hanging fruits that you think we should leverage on to move this country forward?
Thank you very much, Jume. Well, before talking about the low-hanging fruits to take this country forward, we have to look at the context within which we are celebrating the 63rd anniversary of nationhood for Nigeria. And that is the context within which the president spoke to Nigerians on this anniversary. We are faced with a deluge of false promises in the past, failed hopes. So people are cynical, and they are cynical quite rightly because of past failures. Having said that, the president tried within his speech, within that context, to try to uplift Nigerians, and actually he covered most of the areas that are of concern to Nigerians. The main thing facing Nigerians today, the issue of prices of goods and services. Food items in particular are outside the reach of most of the common man. Transport occasioned by the increase, but rather by the withdrawal of fuel subsidy, and then all the attendant increase in costs with the fixed wage. So obviously people are in dire straits. The President has spoken, first of all, regarding the civil servants. 35,000 may not be too much in view of the fact that, in fact, as a nation, we have failed to align our reward system with the standard of living, such that even people that are getting 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, they cannot make ends meet. So there is a need, actually, for a reassessment of the wage system in the country, reward system, which I believe the President is trying to do. And what he is giving now, the 35,000, is simply to ameliorate the current situation as they continue, because I understand it's going to be for a 6-month period. So this is a temporary measure which I believe will give some palliative. The second thing which the President said in his speech, which I also find inspiring, is the fact that he is going to invest in entities that have got potential, and also micro, small, and medium enterprises that are actually supposed to be the engine of growth in any economy. You look at the emerging markets, India, Malaysia, they rely on micro, small, and medium enterprises. And the President has mentioned in his speech that he's going to invest in those. Of course, the issue of compressed natural gas is an alternative, is cheaper. How it compares with the liquefied natural gas, I'm not too sure. But for instance, personally, I used to have a generator which runs on petrol, but I converted it to LPG, and I saved about 50% of the cost. So I think the President is trying, within the limited options available to him, to try and see if he can give this palliative immediately. My concern is that, although the professor mentioned a miracle worker, and I don't think we can have a president for a miracle worker, but my concern is that there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency in the way and manner that policies made by government have been implemented.
Why do you say that?
For instance, this issue of even introducing the buses, we are coming about 3 months after the withdrawal of subsidy. I would have thought, in fact, it should have even preceded the withdrawal of subsidy. But even if it did not precede it, by now we should have seen these buses working. I know for a fact that some state governments like Oyo, they have tried to introduce it at their own level. But the federal government seems to be lethargic in implementing policies that will directly affect, change the situation. So I think the government needs to really rise up to the occasion, still referring to the professor from Ibadan, that there is an urgency that government should be seen to be something, and government should be able to think out of the box. This is a government that we campaign for. Why? Because we have confidence in the ability of Mr. President as a person. We have confidence in his power, in his ability to turn things around. So we expect that the President should actually take the lead and try to implement those things, you know, with a sense of urgency. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Malam Salihu, for the comments that you have made. I want to come back to Dr. Okeke, former Deputy Governor of Anambra. On an anniversary occasion such as this, you've made your comments on the President's comment, on the President's broadcast. It appears that perhaps part of our focus as commentators should be on the feel-good factor amongst the citizens. Do citizens feel good about the country? How can the citizens feel good about the country?
Excuse me. You know, I worry about this country, not that we don't have all the resources we need, even human capital. I worry about our mindset, our sincerity of purpose. The greatest challenge we have in this country is not that we don't have good policies, we don't have good programs. It's accountability. You put somebody in an office, you expect that person to work and deliver. That person doesn't. You don't remove that person. They stay in the office for as long as they want. Nothing happens, nothing moves. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. The new Minister of Interior came in. There was a backlog of issuing of passports. Over 200,000 passports were stolen. And he gave him a deadline. And now I hear it's been reduced to about maybe 20,000 left to be issued. What did he do different? What happened? I mean, it's not like we introduced new computers or new systems, because there wasn't enough time for that to happen. So he gave somebody a push. Go and make sure those passports are issued. What we need more in this, our society, is people to be held accountable for their actions or inaction. I was in a deputy governor for 8 years, and I saw how things moved, how things worked. And I said to my staff, listen, watch me, do as I do. If I work, work. If I don't, don't. I think what we need to work on is, we don't need PhDs to be manning our ministries. No, we don't. What we need are people who are committed, people who are sincere in their heart to deliver, to do right by this country. The president, I know, from what I've seen, wants to change our society, to make this country move.
I'm sorry, let me interject.
Yes.
You've introduced another element.
Yes.
My earlier question subsists.
Yes,
but I was just going to say, you say we need the right kind of persons to do the right things.
Yes.
But part of the challenge that some persons would throw up with respect to our society today is that the very best doesn't get into those positions.
How do you consider the very best? Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Look at the president of Ukraine, who is a comedian. When he assumed office, people didn't think he would perform. But look at him today. He's a toast of the world. I think it's not what you have in your head. We all know what is right in our heart, what is right to do. You sit here, you know your job, you know what you're supposed to do to make this program work. Everybody does that. The president can pick people with brains, but they won't deliver. They won't. It doesn't matter. To me, he needs to look at the people that he knows and maybe from introduction and say, okay, who do I put in this situation? And can that person deliver to do the job that I want him to do? And once that person doesn't deliver, remove him or her. I don't get it. We can't just keep on allowing people to sit in an office and nothing is moving, nothing is happening, and you still keep them there. People commit crimes, they're not tried, they're not found guilty, and jailed. If you do that to 1, 2 people, everybody else begins to sit up. We have everything we need in our country. We have all the resources. All we need to do is to apply them. If the president is sincere and wants to do that from what I've seen, then tell every minister to sit up. If your parastatals, directors are not working, remove them. That's the feel-good factor people want to see. People want to see people being removed from offices that are not performing. That's what tells the citizen that, yes, that's good. This is what I want to see. But corruption has become so ingrained in our society that everything is normal. If you are in office, you don't steal, people think you're stupid, you're not smart. So we need to begin to change the mindset. Look for people who are sincere and willing to perform. Like I said, I was watching a program the other day on Abuja government had their 100 days in office. And what they did was they brought every commissioner. They had to come out and say what they have done in the last 3 months. Publicly. That's what we need to see. Bring your ministers, tell us what you've achieved. What have you done in this 3 months that you've been in office? Have you done much? Tell us the progress you've made. they should all come out to the news media, they should be interviewed, and people should be able to interrogate their progress to see whether they're moving forward. If they're not, the president should say, young man, young woman, time for you to step aside. Let me put somebody else in your place. That's what we need in our society. I keep on.
Is that possible?
It is.
In Nigeria.
Why not?
Remove you when you.
Why not? The only people I know we have difficulty is civil servants, who are also part of the problem. Of course, civil servants, to remove a civil servant, it takes you must have written several queries or whatever. But we need to change that. Because you talk about China, the progress China made. Why did they make the progress? Because you don't play in China. You have your head cut off.
Yes. I was watching an interview with the Singaporean president.
Yes.
His son is now the prime minister, and they were asking him some questions, and he told them that there are some things we can't do in this country for this country to move forward.
Yes.
They don't even sell chewing gum in their country.
You don't chew gum in
You don't chew
Singapore.
gum in Singapore.
Absolutely.
Imagine doing that in Nigeria today.
Exactly.
What will happen?
There are countries that look at Rwanda. 25 years ago, Rwanda were dead bodies all over the place. Look at Rwanda today. They call the president is a benevolent dictator. But he's delivering for his people. He's doing what is right. He's doing what is needed for his country to move forward. That needs to happen here.
Okay. Let's bring in Professor Adeshino now, based on the discussion we're having. You know, Nigeria is a very religious country. We believe in God's destiny for us. But why can't we in any way believe that God, in his infinite mercy, brought us together as a nation, as one, as part of our destiny? And 63 years after, why is Nigeria still bedeviled in regionalism and ethnicity rather than the growth of our commonwealth? You know, how can we build on that? How can we throw away, look at Nigeria as our own, as our destiny? God brought us together as one so that we can move this country and live as one. Do we have that belief in ourselves and in our country?
Thank you very much. You know what St. Augustine, Bishop of Hippo, said? He said, God who created us without us will not save us without us. So the responsibility to change things is ours. No matter how you mumble platitudes, no matter how you remonstrate with people, no matter how you use the orientation agency to talk to people, there are certain things that must be done, which means there is a substructure that must be constructed before you begin to create that superstructure. In the case of Nigeria, the politics of exclusion, politics of ethnicity, barefaced stealing and corruption, all these things are those things that have actually angered people and that have, come to the conclusion that this country cannot be repaired. So, today we have a problem with the youth bulge. So, if we have that problem, why are the young people now running out of the country as if there is a war in the country? Actually, there is a war. And the war seems to be targeted at the young people, which is they can't find job, the schools are not going very well, the universities are decaying, there is no food, their parents are not getting their pensions. There is a war. It's a war of low intensity. So, how do you then begin to convince that generation? Because there is now a generational war. How do you begin to convince that generation that, ethnicity is their problem? In fact, if there is a generation that doesn't care about ethnicity today in this country, it is this young generation. They are moving out of that mold in which we looked at ethnicity. They don't care about it. So if we begin to then understand what has to be done, and that's what I meant by the miracle worker, is not about It's a concept. It's not about you bringing out a wand and saying, yeah, abracadabra. No. You have to understand what has to be done. You have to pick the people who have to do this. If you have read Lee Kuan Yew's From Third World to First, you understand what I'm talking about. These things are achievable. So then let's continue to blame ethnicity. Let's continue to blame ourselves. There are certain things which we must do, which we have neglected, and that is why I mentioned the fact that, yes, we can see all these policies, we can see all these plans of action, but we cannot continue doing these things over and over again. Let us evolve a grand strategy that brings all these things together, and so we know where we are headed. We know where we are going to be in 10 years. We know, and so once our children also see this, they become our partners. But right now, they don't see. All everybody is shouting is politics, ethnicity, religion, and they don't care about it. What has, you know, in their own street level, they will say, in the lingo, they say, who da help? Who da help? And we teach these young boys and girls every day. We try to give them comfort. We try to give them hope. But they don't see all these things being replicated in the larger society. And so they are unhappy. So the only way to make these people happy is to begin to do what we have to do to push ethnicity backwards, to push corruption backwards, and to begin to build. We have not started building. We are yet, to use the language of W.W. Rostow, we are yet to satisfy the preconditions for a takeoff. And the only way we are going to do this is when we have policies being driven by intellectualism. Right now, it's not being done.
Professor Adesina, thank you very much there for weighing in. Let's come back to Princess Zara Audu. Princess Zara, still on the issue of feeling good about the country and how to make the citizens feel good. Prof. Adesina has taken it from the perspective of the young persons to say, look, by voting with their feet, they are giving the indication they are not feeling good about the country. And he uses the analogy of a low-intensity intergenerational conflict. So how can we, on this occasion of our independence, to say, listen, let's look inwards and then begin to do those things that will make us feel hip about ourselves and about our country?
I'll tell you one quick fix, in my opinion. Our style of leadership. We need to start having a style of leadership that tells people we're here to serve. We are not here to be emperors. We're not here to rule. We're here to offer service. When the common man starts to feel that their opinion matters, they can walk up to their minister and say, Your Excellency, or whatever they call them, Honorable Minister, this, critical issues. When they go to occasions and the sitting arrangement, you know, the ministers are not prioritized, but the citizens are prioritized because their opinions matter. When they see generally in society that how, you know, it's not one rule for you because you've been opportune to be a minister and another rule for others who maybe are even more qualified than you. I think it's the style of leadership that's a major problem in Nigeria. People get into positions and rather than wanting to come there and serve, they are excited that they finally arrived. It's my turn to be a minister. It's, you know, now, you know, people answer to me. No, it's not supposed to be. You're supposed to understand that you're there to serve the people. You're a direct staff of Mr. President. You're not even elected. You know what I mean? So you should understand that you are at the mercy of the people. The will. And first of all, I think one of the key things with identifying people, His Excellency said something. It's not about qualifications. Yes, it's all well and good. In fact, if you go by qualifications, we're all extremely qualified in Nigeria because we push ourselves. We have the most PhD holders in anywhere in the world in leadership. I'm not saying I don't know the statistics, but when it comes to leadership, the majority of our leaders now have doctor before their name. Nowhere else in the world do you see that, not even in America, right? So it's not about the education, it's the will to serve. It's the understanding of what is service. Service is not an opportunity for you to come and enrich your pocket. Service is not an opportunity for you to come and become an emperor. You've arrived. It's time for you to rule. No, it's the other way around. It's time for you to offer your own quota to the growth of Nigeria. And you know, my biggest problem that I see with a lot of people is I don't see people striving to leave a legacy. You've been given an opportunity to leave a legacy, to leave a mark, to actually say this was my contribution to my country. Nobody's interested in that. People are looking at how to acquire, which contracts haven't been finished from the last administration, so that they can quickly, you know, turn that around and make it, obviously liquidate that and make some money off it. So these are the things, and I can't blame Mr. President for all the appointees simply because it's politics. People came together, you know, to win. So at the end of the day, you need to give out slots, and who you're giving the slots to, their intention will vary to your intention. So this first set of appointees, we need to understand that, you know, there's a mix of the will to, of course, Mr. President will always have the will to save Nigeria and deliver. That's why he came. He has nothing else to gain from Nigeria. But then, like they say, all fingers are not equal. So everybody is not on the same wavelength.
Yeah, but the conversation, I'm sorry, the conversation is less about the president and presidential appointees. There are 36 state governments, 774 local governments, and if those local governments are democratically elected, you also have powers and authority flowing from those levels. You have lawmakers. It's the totality of government and the totality of business people, or the kinds of things they do and are allowed to do in the country. That's the focus, not necessarily on the president and then his ministers. Yes.
The style of governance is everything. The style of governance is everything. If you have a style of governance that shows service to the people would be, you know, would automatically be happier. That's just the truth. Nobody wants to say, oh, I can't fuel my car, but somebody in office, whether it's a governor or, like you said, a local government chairman, has 4 cars and they're fueling it on public resources. So it's the style of governance. That's the quickest way for us to show Nigerians that we care. Once we, like you said, you have to be the example. Once you're using yourself, if I'm making cuts and I'm adjusting to the reality of the country, then who shouldn't? So it has to start from the top to the bottom. There's no way that you would see at the federal level that there's a different style of leadership, and then at the state level it won't reflect. It's simply, you know, from top to bottom. If the governor lives a certain lifestyle, automatically the local government chairman will live that kind of lifestyle. You cannot see your governor coming to an event with 2 or 3 cars, and you, as local government chairman, will come with 5. So it's the lifestyle that is offending Nigerians, especially the younger Nigerians. You know, it's okay for you to be a businessman and live as lavishly as you want to because you're working hard for your money. But it's not okay for you to be a public servant and live at the expense of the state, to say. So I think it's for us to. I think the most important thing is for us to first of all look at the style of governance and let us make sure that it's reflective of the realities of the situation that we face in Nigeria today. I think that would be a very, very quick way of building confidence in the citizens, especially the younger generation who are actively, in fact, they're everywhere. Every second they're on, they're filming and they're posting it. So they're sharing the content. They can see, they're observing. It's not like before that it was difficult for you to get information from one to the other. If they generally see that there is a level of soberness in the style of governance, people in government, whether it's from the local government level to the governors to the federal level, if they can see that people are adjusting their lifestyles to suit the reality of what is going on in Nigeria now, I think that would be the beginning of making them feel better about the country. Also, it's accountability. And again, thinking outside the box, having the will and carrying people generally along. Young people always believe that they have a lot of ideas, which of course, they do. So it's giving them the opportunity to contribute to their government one way or the other, doing things that are interactive, doing things that open up the room for them to contribute their quota, whether it's just in terms of, advice or ideas, or even getting actively involved in projects. There's nothing wrong with that, So I think it's just, overall, we need to change the style of leadership, because that would help us to, the whole country, understand everybody's cutting back. So that has to also be reflected in those who are governing the country. If they cut back too, then Nigerians feel like, okay, they're also feeling our pain and they're also going through similar situations that we are. So it's easier to be patient when you feel like everybody's in the same situation. That's my take on it.
Okay, still talking about the youths and how they can contribute meaningfully to this country. We've seen a lot of japa. We've been losing a lot of our youths to the other countries. We see how our telecoms, our banking system during the Naira policy era almost went down because most of them left the country. Now, these are generations that do not know how good it used to be. How good Nigeria is to be. Good roads, good schools, good airlines, good everything. How do we begin to tell them that Nigeria was good and we can get back to that point or even better and make life easier for the youth? Because then when you graduate, you already have a job, you already have a car. Now you graduate 10 years, your shoes soles just gets worn out, just walking from one office to the other, trying to get a job. How can we bring them back on board, which the president is doing? We've seen a lot of young people, as part of his government. Even Princess Zara is, young people, making impact in his government. So how do we bring our youth to understand that we can get back to that place where we were before, or even better?
That place that we were, some of us that were born before independence, of course, we knew how it was. We enjoyed it, because I remember when we were in the secondary school, even before we finished, when we were in Form 5, at that time it was a 5-year secondary school, different organizations like the P&T then, the railways, they will come to our school, the Army, the Air Force, they will come to the secondary school when we were in Form 5 to explain to us some of the benefits of working in those organizations. Now, that was in fact even before we went to university.
Career counseling.
Career counseling at secondary school level in those days. But then, since then, a lot of water has passed under the bridge. Of course, our population then was just about 56 million at independence. Now we have a population of over 200 million. At that time, in my state, we had only one secondary school. But now in a town, you have hundreds of secondary schools. So there are changes occasioned by a lot of things that have happened. So obviously, things have changed. But for us, our own resources, at that time we were relying on cocoa, on groundnut, cotton, hides and skin, rubber. But since then, with the advent of oil in the 70s, early 70s, a lot of things changed for the worst, if I might say so. So how do we revive this? Now, we are in the IT age. We're in the computer age. We're in the digital age. And we have a lot of young, resourceful people in this country. Although I personally, I do not subscribe much to the fact that we are losing people going out, because we still have a lot of the youth inside this country. So all this hue and cry about our people living out, I don't think it is negative in all times. We are, on the other hand, also jubilating that we are receiving from the diaspora remittances. We are benefiting. If our people don't go out, how do you expect that they will remit money to us? Look at other nationals. Look at the Indians, for instance. The Indians are spread all over the world. And in India, the diaspora remittance is one of their major sources of foreign exchange. So I don't think we should continue to lament all this much about our young and bright people leaving the country, especially now when actually there is mobility. People can come and go. They can work, they will be residing in the UK, they can be working in Nigeria. So I think let us not make too much of that. The fact of the matter is that those that are here, we should try to involve them, inclusivity. I am happy with this government. For the first time, the federal government now is engaging a lot of young youth in top positions. We have ministers under 40, about 4 or 5 of them. We have a young man who is heading even the engineering infrastructure organization. You know, so this is unprecedented. It's a very good step which the president has taken. And I think it is an opportunity for the youth now involved to prove their mettle being in government in order to act and to behave different from we, the older generation. For instance, when my sister here is talking about attitudinal change, the attitudes of those in authority, it has to change. Let us see it from the younger people that are now given ministerial positions. Let us see them going to their villages with only 1 or 2 escort cars, not with 10 vehicles and so on. So I think the youth have been given the opportunity by this government, and it is up to them to prove to us that yes, they can take Nigeria to the promised land.
All right. Malam Salihu, thank you very much for your reminiscence you gave with respect to what happened.
I could see you shaking your head there.
I was nodding. I wasn't shaking.
You were nodding. You were nodding. You were saying, yes, what you said is correct.
I was nodding in agreement.
Yeah.
And look, we have to say this. I mean, for those who have had the benefit of living and working and also benefiting from this country, and that's why we keep making our contribution. This country has been kind to us. And things worked in the past. I think should work even better now. I think that's the entire sentiment. Yes. I mean, some of us earned our first salaries. I don't know. I don't want to get into the details of my biography. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA.
We'll read it in your book.
When we come back, we continue with the conversation.
The job of making Nigeria great is my ambition, is my dream, to renew the hope of Nigerians, to really bring about changes that will promote unity, equity, stability, and prosperity for this country.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Some of our guests, Princess Zara and Malam Salihu, they've also referenced the issues around the attitude of those in authority, those in government. And earlier on this program, in the background, there was a clip that was played, and it had to do with some of the vehicles. If we could see those vehicles now, they were talking about escort cars that are in use now. If we could see them, no, well, these are the parades. This is much earlier. I think I'm talking about the 70s. This was in the 60s. I'm sure the tape will get to that particular portion. I just want to draw attention to this and see, because sometimes I'm talking about the Nigerian elite now. We ride on platitudes and say, oh, reduce the cost of governance. And in their actions, we don't see that reduction in the cost of governance. You go to public places and you will be scandalized by the number of SUVs that you find around. Now, take a look at this. This is a Peugeot 504. Take a look at that on the screen. That's a Peugeot 504. At the time, the Peugeot 504 was an official car. You can see the emblem. The feel-good factor of the citizens, measure it against the time now where we are having bulletproof SUVs, and you probably have more SUVs on Nigerian roads than you have in Japan. You have more Range Rover vehicles on Nigerian roads, or sometimes officials, than you have in the UK, where the Range Rover is manufactured. And we keep talking about reducing the cost of governance. About a year ago, here in Abuja, I attended a function where there was a review of the PIA implementation 1 year after. That's the Petroleum Industry Act 1 year.
Yes.
And it came out that the cost, for instance, of fueling one of these SUVs, these monster vehicles you have on the road, can actually convey 18 passengers. And yet you go to public functions. Zara, you were saying that these are vehicles purchased at public cost. These are vehicles fueled at public cost. And then we sermonize about reducing. I'm talking about all levels. All levels, including even the private sector. Everyone, SUV. How many of these SUVs are manufactured here? Our Forex goes out. That 504 was made here. That 504 we saw was made here. So I'm coming back to you, Your Excellency. How can we therefore square ourselves so that when we say these platitudes, reduce the cost of governance, feel good, we actually reduce the cost of governance and make money available for public services? So that you go to a primary health care center, it is functional. You go to the hospital, it is not they are not even consulting clinics now in some cases. And then the out-of-pocket expenses that the individual has is less because he can rely on the government. But we keep spending money openly like this, and then our money is going out, more taxes, and so on and so forth.
We've not talked about the numerous aids, 200 aids, 400 aids.
So on and so forth. So how do we bring ourselves back to that reality?
I think it's a process. They say Rome was not built in a day. I think everything depends on the leader. I think people follow. If a leader comes in and says, I want to change things, I want to do things different, people get to follow. People watch. I mean, everybody looks at who's on top. It's like you're in a family setting. Your children look at you, the parents, and see how you behave. And that's what they emulate when they grow up. We have a long way to go in terms of looking at some of these issues you're raising. Number of vehicles, number of aids, the security around our VIPs. I think everything comes to who that person is. A governor can say, like Zara mentioned, that if you're a local government chairman and your governor drives only maybe 4 vehicles, you as a local government chairman, you're not going to come in there with 6 vehicles. You'll be stupid because you will definitely lose your job as a chairman. I think it's just a process that we need to begin to change people's mindset, people's idea that when you go into government, you're there to serve, you're there to work, you're there to leave a legacy. You know, when we talk about the federal government, we also have to go back to the subnational, but that's where we have most of the people, not in the federal government. We need to change governors' mindset in how they behave, their thought process. What is it that you do? I can't, as a governor, spend most of my money building an airport for 1% of my population. I'd rather spend that money doing things that will employ people, come up with industrial parks, build technology parks, create jobs for people, because that's when you can increase the pie. The pie gets bigger, you can now build that airport that you want. You want an elephant project, you want to leave a legacy. We need to refocus, we need to reorient our idea on how to move a nation forward. We need to get our masses employed. I like what Salih was talking about, people leaving. It's okay for people to leave the country. There are more people still here ready to work, ready to contribute their quota to nation building. They just need the opportunity. How does opportunity come? You're sitting down, you're saying, okay, how do I get more people employed? How do I get the private sector, working? The federal government is now talking about doing more for the MSMEs. We need to. It's those small companies, mom and pop, 2-3 people. It's what makes a nation. It's not the big companies. It's the little ones that's in the small nooks and crannies of society that put people in jobs. They're able to feed their families, and things begin to move. What is it that people are looking for? Food on the table. Children go to school. That's all that matters. That's it. Nothing else matters in life. Once you're able to feed your family, send your kids to school, what else? I think, I believe in my heart, and I pray to God that this administration will move in the right direction. So far, the president is putting the right people, excuse me, in the square pegs and square holes. Now, it's up to them to do what is right. I like the number of the people you put in the CBN. Of course, nobody wants to talk about what happened in the CBN. Nobody. I mean, nobody. I mean, the whole. It was a complete mess. But I pray that we have new people on board. They begin to change things. It's not going to happen in a day. The forex issue, the naira dollar equivalent, I know it's going to come down. I know for sure as an economist it will come down. But it's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. We need to find ways to increase our exports. We need to find ways to bring more, like you said, people in Japan, they're bringing more diaspora income. All we need to do is create an avenue here where our people in diaspora have a need to send their money here and earn interest more than they'll be earning in the country where they live in. That's all. That's the only way you can attract them. You know, if not, all they're bringing here is to do a burial or to send to the school. But you want to bring the money to invest in the country. So give them that incentive to do that. Once you're able to do that, things will begin to move. Make sure our ministers are doing their job. Give them KPIs. If you're not performing, please move that person aside, put somebody else. We've done that with the security architecture. We've put more people in. And to me, it's not just putting people in news service chiefs. They must talk to each other. The war on terrorism is not just that you're sending soldiers to the battlefield. It's intelligence. You need to gather intelligence. And the only way you gather it is that the Air Force is talking to the Navy. Navy is talking to the Army. The Army is talking to whoever needs to be. You're sharing information. Because they can all be at the same place at the same time. Once that's done, we begin to solve, there's a synergy, things begin to move in the right direction. I think Nigeria will move forward. I know in my heart that this country will move in the right direction. It will just take time, and we need to exercise a lot of patience. And in your own little corner, do what is right. It's not only the president, the governors, the local government chairman. We as citizens, we need to do what is right. Let me give an example of what I'm talking about. When they had the Naira, change, the POS operators, how they milked the society. Was that right? It wasn't. But they looked at it as an opportunity for them to make their own killing. So you keep on blaming people in politics, but yet these are citizens. It's us. It is us. We need to change our mindset. We need to reorient the way we feel, the way we look at things. Parents, that your kids come home.
It turns out, I'm sorry, let me interject so that my colleague can also come here and get the other. It turns out that the signaling from the leadership also fuels the kind of behavior you see down the ladder. Every day you hear about corruption, and then what they see, the optics are also not right. You just see plain ostentation and then poverty. That's part of the...
Yes. And even during that period, we saw parties where people were spraying the new Naira and stepping on it, and while the masses are queuing for hours just to get 5,000 Naira.
Some people were on video. They were spraying money on goats.
Like I was saying earlier, accountability. We must change the judiciary to be able to be more forceful in our actions. People must be held. Just look at Nigerians when they get to Murtala Mohammed Airport. They struggle, they fight, they jump queues. But once they land in a foreign country,
they're in a queue.
They're in a queue. The same Nigerian guy, the same Nigerian person. Nothing changed. He was just 6 hours, 7 hours on a flight. And he behaves himself because he knows there are consequences to your action. Those are the consequences. Let me give an example before I keep quiet. Yesterday I was in church and we're doing Bible study. And we're discussing issue of compromise, Christianity and the compromise. They were talking about Joseph when he had a master and the wife, seduced him to sleep, with her. And Joseph refused. The clergyman I was talking was looking more at the benefits Joseph would have gotten if he had done that. But that wasn't my interest. My interest was Joseph saying no, knowing that if the wife goes to the master and says that Joseph seduced him, his head would have been cut off.
Yes.
It showed the strength of character in Joseph. So the point I'm making is, if we make people accountable, that there are consequences to your action and inaction, people will sit up. If a president fires a minister for non-performance, other ministers will do what? They will sit up. That to me is the only way things work. If your child misbehaves, you give him a spanking. The rest of the children know, hey, I can do this.
Indeed, Dr. Ikem, thank you so much for. Let's bring in Professor Adesina. In his speech, apart from attitudinal change Nigerians need to go through, the president said that bold reforms were necessary to place our nation on the path of prosperity and growth. There are a lot of milestones that is leading us to that point right now. Let's have your take on that.
There is no doubt about it that we need very painful surgical operations in certain aspects of our lives. When you look at the sense of alienation we face when our political leaders consume or behave, or when rich people behave in certain ways, these are things that we must begin to correct. Because when you talk about violence, it's not when you use guns or cutlass that you talk about violence. It does violence to the human heart to live in poverty, on penury, in a land that is full of milk and honey. That's violence. You see affluence everywhere, and yet you are suffering in the midst of that. How will you define violence better than that? And so, if we are going to start to rebuild this country, because it needs rebuilding, we must begin to tutor those who are in government, those who are out of government. And when you also talk about, youths are being represented in government, we'll see how they behave, that's not the point. What you see with that is mere tokenism. It has nothing to do with the millions of youths out there. And then what reforms are you talking about? The tax reform is going to take a lot to achieve in this country, because when you suffer the pangs of multiple taxation, you have just started a business, the government is not giving you a tax holiday to say, well, it's a startup, we'll give you 5 years to work and then make something out of it, then you start paying tax. That's not been done. Governments are usually lazy. They want easy tax all over the place. And then, of course, multiple taxation, you are going on the road with your branded vehicle, they stop you. Meanwhile, you have paid tax to the government. So these are things that must go into the reforms we are talking about. We are not going to achieve development if people are not comfortable with how the ease of doing business is being operated. So there are a lot of issues. So we must take it sector by sector, look at it, sit down on the floor together with people who are knowledgeable and evolve a blueprint. We don't want a policy that will cancel out one year. In the university system, we bring in grants from foreign countries, and the grant sits at the central bank for months before it's being released to the university. The purpose is being defeated, with it's been at the central bank for months before it's released to the university system. So there are several policies that are cancelling out good policies all over the place. Let us sit down and look at all these things holistically. If we don't do it, I'm sorry, the country is not going to go anywhere, because everybody will keep on getting angrier and angrier every day. And when you talk about the Japa syndrome, I don't think we have internalized this very well. If you talk about India, and this is where you have to also understand policies, different policies all over the world. Indians who go abroad, many of them are not going out of frustration, they are just going to seek greener pastures, repatriate money, but there is always a policy of government of India coming in agreement with the policy of your host country, because several forms that we have filled abroad as Nigerians. They will ask whether your country has a tax policy with that country, which we don't normally. But Indians would, as a matter of official process, send tax officially with the knowledge of the government back home. But in our own case, you remember a few weeks ago the central bank complaining that foreign currency is coming into the economy unregulated because it's not coming through the central bank. So the more you want to shore up the naira today, the more the remittances from abroad come into the economy unrestricted will ensure that the economy remains unstable. So we have to look at all these things holistically. That is when these reforms will work. It's not when you just pick one.
But Professor additional, thank you very much there for the points you have raised. Let's come back to the studios. Malam Salihu, in a sense, we've touched on aspects relating to unity and then prosperity. But for the remainder of the time we have, if we can just maximize it, in terms of the fundamentals of prosperity, can we forge as a nation now to say, look, the prosperity question is one for us to address? Because it appears that there are people who are poorer than those who are more comfortable. I don't want to repeat that phrase about the capital of that, right? And some would argue that this arises largely because, again, we have not been able to sustain a middle class that is viable and therefore can absorb the shocks between the small upper crust and then the bottom of the pyramid who are right there. Now there's the intergenerational conflict issue that is arising. How do we balance all of this out in trying to do this? Otherwise, they will just have a miasma of policies and so on and so forth.
Yes, all these are multifaceted socio-economic problems, and they are all part of nation building, honestly. They are all part of nation building. It's not unexpected that we'll come across this. My concern is that the leadership, the political leadership, appears to be totally out of tune with the reality of the followership. What do I mean by that? You see, our political class, they live by the standards of the first world, while the followership, to a large extent, are living by the standards of no world, if I might say so. What do I mean? For instance, take housing. It's one of the things that are required for a very good living, standard of living. Go to leave Abuja. Go to your villages, go to the urban areas of our state capitals and see how people are living in this era. What about our health system? When the poor get sick, how do they get medication? At what cost? There are a lot of deaths that are recorded simply because people cannot afford to buy malarial tablets. Or even deaths occasioned by pregnancy. In pregnancy, a very simple maternal mortality. So you measure all these things. These are what measures the Human Development Index. And you find that by and large in our country, unfortunately, we are living at a standard that is below the third world even. Yep. While the leadership is actually living by a different standard.
Manasali, we've run out of time. Actually,
yes.
we have to bring in Princess.
So that's the point
Yes, your last words in 30 seconds, please.
Well, I think all Nigerians should try and be optimistic. Let's be the example that we want Nigeria to look like. Let's practice what we preach, and let's be more than words. So I think there's so much more that we can say, but I think the summary is let's look inwards for the outward expectations that we have. Thank you.
Okay, Princess Zara Audu, she is a woman leader, North Central All Progressives Congress, APC Zonal Woman Leader. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Malan Saliu Lukman Abubakar, Public Affairs Commentator. It's been a pleasure having you. Dr. Nkem Okeke, Immediate Deputy Governor of Anambra State. Thank you for your insightful contribution to the conversation. And Professor Olutayo Adeshino, Professor of History, University of Ibadan, or your state. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria and for your insightful contribution to the topic.
That's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. As always, we appreciate your being with us. Tomorrow is another day, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, look after yourselves and enjoy the Independence holiday that we still have it. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Jumai Yusuf. Do have a great day and enjoy the holiday.